Hey Spanish Fork, it's great to be with you. I'm Nick Porter, the Public Information Officer, and I'm really excited today to have a discussion about the land use element and the general plan for Spanish Fork City. So I'm joined today by our Economic and Community Development Director, Dave Anderson, as well as Mariana Stuck and Chris Geddes from Design Workshop. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
So they're going to walk us through what's going to be a process of updating the Spanish Fork General Plan. We'll talk about why that's important, what it entails, and then how residents can get involved in the general plan and planning for the vision of Spanish Fork City. So Dave, tell us a little bit about the background on this project and what we're embarking on.
Yeah, thank you. This is really about making Spanish Fork the best place it can be, the best for residents, the best for businesses, the best for everybody. Which really is a matter of understanding what the community values and what their priorities are, and creating a vision for land use that matches those priorities and that vision. We're really happy that Design Workshop has agreed to be our partner on this project and look forward to better understanding what the community expects and what they want, so that as Spanish Fork continues to change, we can build upon the strengths that the community has now so that we can preserve the things that people appreciate about Spanish Fork, even though we know that change will continue and that likely it won't slow down even anytime soon. So it's a really unique opportunity to make an investment in the community's future by way of deciding what land use should look like in the future. We appreciate the City Council's support on the project and look forward to getting some good work done.
Awesome. So, Chris, Design Workshop, you've done a number of these kind of things looking at land use. And so tell us a little bit about what your role is and what the project looks like from your perspective.
Certainly. Our role is really to facilitate this planning process. We've done a number of these projects, both from a land use standpoint as well as from a stationary standpoint, up and down the Wasatch Front. And again, our role is to really be the facilitator, to really ask the questions of the community about what does the best Spanish Fork look like, in the next 10 to 20 years. This is really helping the community to define a vision for the place that they call home. And you really just to carry the message of the community sharing into policy and planning that really helps policy makers, decision makers make the right steps toward positive development.
So you mentioned kind of the station area as part of this process. So a station area plan, we're talking about Front Runner Station coming to Spanish Fork. So what does that part look like? And what are the requirements that we're looking at for a station area plan?
Yeah, the station area plan is a really interesting component. We all know that Spanish Fork doesn't have a station today, but the state is really putting a lot of effort into planning for the future of transit. As we know, with growth comes congestion. And the state recognizes the opportunity to use transit services to help with the congestion. But more importantly, in some cases, is to help to really think about land use and development in a way that supports all of Utah residents. So back in 2022, the State House approves House Bill 462, which effectively requires all communities who have a current or future station area to do a station area plan for those stations. In Spanish Fork's case, there currently isn't a station, but UTA is working through a vision plan for the future of transit access coming down to the southern part of Utah County, and is identifying a location for a station in Spanish Fork. So what we will be doing is looking at future land use decisions, character opportunities that reinforce both transit ridership, that reinforce mixed-use development, that reinforce access to attainable housing within a half-mile radius of the identified current future station area.
And so I think we have a kind of an image of that plan, and just walk us through what we're seeing on these images.
Certainly. So again, it's not been identified discreetly yet where the station will go, but As many know, there are plans for a future interchange at I-15 near Center Street, and that has been identified as probably the preferred location for that station area. So what we're doing, the image you see on the screen shows a half-mile radius, the outer circle on that plan, and that's the study area. You will notice that about half of that land is currently within the city's city's boundary. The northwestern portion of that is not. So there are conversations we need to have with Utah County landowners to really, think about what is the potential future for that area and make sure that you're growing it in a way that is, palatable to the community.
So, Dave, I think one question that we have gotten, and we'll get a lot through this process, is why now? What was the trigger to jump on this project now?
There are a number of things I think that really help make this project a priority for the City Council. Probably the biggest one is that it's been a long time. The land use element that we have today, it's been updated regularly. It probably gets amended in one way or another every year, oftentimes a few times a year, but there has not been a comprehensive review of our general plan since 2012.
Wow.
Oftentimes communities will try to do this every 8 or 9 years. It's been a little bit longer than that for us, and the last decade, all along the Wasatch Front, has brought a lot of change by way of different housing types that have come into favor in the market. Some of the obstacles to being able to obtain housing and the like have changed. Right. I think it's a more challenging time to plan for future land use now than it was 10 years ago. So there's a need to plan to make sure that we are preserving what the community appreciates the most about Spanish Fork. And we are very excited about the opportunity we have today to do that.
So it sounds like with the station area plan and this all together, it's really setting the table, right, for the future and for that front runner. So it kind of seems like the sooner we can get this process done correctly, the better for that, right? Marianne, can you walk us through kind of the timeline of what this project's going to take?
Yeah, absolutely. So the process for this project is structured around 5 main phases that are based into weaving kind of times of technical work and recommendations with community engagement. So we're going to be coming back to the community a lot. We are currently working on the initial phase of the project, which is basically analysis, data collection, and will help us get a very good understanding and a framework for the next phases. After that, we're going to work with the community on visioning. We're going to work with the city, with the stakeholders, with the community at large to really understand what is the vision for the future growth of Spanish Fork. Once we have that vision established, we're going to use urban design and planning tools to develop 2 growth and development scenarios, 2 alternatives basically that we're going to then evaluate. We're going to ask the community what they want to see, and after we have a preferred alternative, we're going to use that to prepare the final update to the land use element and the station area plan. So timeline, this looks about 10 more months of work for us. We're hoping to wrap everything up by the middle of the fall this year.
Okay, great. And so how, I think people will want to be involved. How can they be involved?
Good question. The short answer is we're going to be around a fair amount. So we've identified 3 different engagement windows during the course of the process that people can come to us, go online, talk to their neighbors, share ideas and reactions. So we are currently in engagement window 1, and again, what we're doing right now is just establishing our understanding of the community based on certain analyses, but also on the tenor of public feedback. So we just launched today the first survey that's going to help us again identify what some of the community priorities are for the plan that we can use to then really evaluate some of the scenarios that Marianne talked about. Excuse me. We have also just today launched a project website, which will be online and available throughout the course of the project. You'll see project updates on a regular basis on that. Any of the analysis that we do, any of the visioning that we do will be on that. So the community can go at their leisure and take a look at that website at any time. Marianne mentioned the second phase, which is really the visioning. Again, another opportunity for folks to engage. We'll have focus groups that will talk about specific specific kind of frameworks for the plan, and really people who are kind of decision makers, if you will, but also really engaged community members. We will have a second survey that will allow folks to really kind of evaluate some of the alternatives that we come up with. And then in the third phase, which is really the implementation phase, the adoption phase, we will allow people to take a look at the plan to really reflect on the preferred land use alternative and station area plan. So again, we'll be here on a regular basis. We'll be asking folks for lots of their ideas, and we hope that they'll find that they'll see those reflected in the final plan.
Awesome. And that website we'll link from our website. So if you visit SpanishFork.org/general plan, you'll be able to find that information and get to where you need to be and be able to take those surveys. But Dave, a lot of community outreach is going to go into this. Why is that so important in this process?
This is the best opportunity for residents of the community to express their thoughts about what Spanish Fork should be. There will likely be other opportunities, for example, as individual development proposals are made in future years, but none will have the kind of influence that people can have today on what not only happens in their neighborhood, but throughout the community. As I mentioned earlier, this is a process that probably will only happen every 10 years or so. So it's a very unique opportunity. We often refer to the land use element of the general plan as something of a blueprint for the community's future. Among other things, I believe the document, when it's created, it's going to send a signal to the world about what the City Council not only wants, but what they expect. And as such, that's what we use in our office in the community development world to help provide people guidance. And as much as people can make time to participate and to share their thoughts now, it's a much more productive time to be engaged and involved in what likely will come along in the future.
So that involvement, we talked about surveys, but you said you'll be around. So we'll find you and be able to interact with you personally?
You will, yes. So we'll hold open houses. We'll show up at events that are already happening. We want to make it as easy for everybody who wants to be engaged in this process to be engaged. So we don't believe that going and talking in a town hall to a group, to an audience is the right way to engage. We want to talk to your community members. We want neighbors, importantly, to talk to neighbors because the best ideas come when people who live here, who work here, who own businesses or land here are talking to one another. So we will be around, and we look forward to meeting everybody who comes out to join us.
Well, we really appreciate you. We're excited for this project. Any last thoughts? Anything that we should all remember as we embark on this process together?
I think the only thing I would say is just check that website regularly. Talk to your neighbors. Make sure that everybody is aware of this plan, because it's the opportunity to put the real community thumbprints on the future of your city. Awesome.
Well, take that survey. You can find that link at SpanishFork.org/general plan, and hopefully we'll have another chance to visit with Chris and Mariane throughout this process. Thanks to Spanish Fork 17 for helping us out today, and we'll see you next time, Spanish Fork.